Senior flight attendants can make over $200,000 per year, only flying 21 days a month. That is a 5-day work week plus 1 week of 6 days. Let me show you the numbers. Flight attendants can make over $200,000 a year. You do not need a college degree to be a flight attendant. We are looking at the average of the top 5 airlines. That's going to be Southwest, Delta, United, American, and Alaska. We're looking at their pay figures and the average of all 5 of them. This is going to be before United has signed their new contract. The new contract is going to give them like retroaction pay and also increase the scale as well. So United is bringing the numbers down. So if United had signed their contract already, these numbers will be higher. Also, it would take less days to reach this $200,000 figure. Also, all airlines do not have boarding pay yet. It will be even easier to make this $200,000 figure if all the airlines had the boarding pay. By looking at my calculations, we're going to be missing out over $13,000 by not all of them having boarding pay. If you're at the ones that do have boarding pay, you can add $13,000 to this list, meaning that $200,000 that we're talking about will be even more, or you can work less days to reach that flat $200,000 mark. So we are looking at top of the pay scale. Flight attendants have a pay scale from starting up into the most senior, which is going to be 12 or 13 years. We're going to look at the most fast way to reach this $200,000 first. It's going to be, you're the senior flight attendant, you're at the top of the pay scale. So that's either going to be 12 years or 13 years in. Yes, you have to work all these years to make this figure at these numbers. But if you wanted to do it as well, you would have to fly a little bit more if you were bottom or lower in the pay scale. So our top out pay is going to be $80 per flight hour. This is the average right now before United's contract. Our per diem is going to be every hour we are on the trip. That's going to be an average for $2.85. We're looking at the domestic per diem at this time. We're going to do international pay. We're not going to get international per diem because we're not laying over in the international spots. It is different for each airline, but we're going to look at the domestic per diem. We're going to get international pay because we're going to do some international trips. That's going to be $2.31 per flight hour. And also, we are going to be looking at some lead pay. So lead pay is going to be $3.35 per flight hour. So what we're going to bring in at the top of the pay scale, $203,438 per year. This is just from flying. This is working 5 days per week, and then 1 week is going to be 6 days per week. We're doing a pretty senior trip, but you can find these on the board. These are going to be turns, so you can go out and back, and these trips are going to be worth 9 hours for the flight pay, so $80 times that $9. And then we're going to have per diem. We're going to be away from base for around 12 and a half hours, so we're going to multiply 12.5 times 2.85. That's our per diem. And then the international pay and the lead pay, you're going to multiply that by the 9 hours. So we're going to also multiply that by 5 times per week. Then we're going to add one more of these trips in, and that's going to bring us $203,438. And realistically, we actually don't have to fly this much because flight attendants get vacation that we use each year. The top of the pay scale, I'm not sure how many weeks of vacation they're going to have. I have 3 weeks, so we can say they're going to have 4 weeks or 5 weeks vacation. So that means we can cut down a couple of days or a couple of weeks of flying, so we have more days off. This is not including any training pay. We have to go to training. We get paid for that. This is not going to include any onboard sales or any other miscellaneous items that are on there. Some companies do shared rewards for how the performance is doing. And like I said, we're going to be missing out on $13,000 of boarding pay. So realistically, this $200,000 is going to be easier to achieve, but this is the baseline. The trips I'm mentioning, like I said, they are senior. So, I mean, at 12 years, 13 years, you should be able to get these out and back trips, these 1 day trips, but it might be harder. Also, to increase this number, this full compensation is going to go up. So the average of the top 5 airlines is going to have an 8.66% match. So we're going to get $17,608 from the company match. And that is almost maxing out your um, 401k. So basically, you're going to have to do the calculation like what percentage should I contribute myself so I am not going to go over that max, but I'm sure it'll automatically just switch. But I guess you might want to go lower so basically the majority of the money is coming from the company because this is almost maxing out. Flight attendants do get profit sharing. Profits are not guaranteed, but we're looking at the numbers from 2005. The average of the 5 companies paid out 5.79% of eligible earnings. So in our scenario, we would have gotten $11,783, bringing our full compensation up to $232,839, not including vacation, not including training and any other miscellaneous pay like holiday pay, holding pay, reroute pay, things that change in the operation. So this is how we're going to more easily bring in $200,000 as a flight attendant. So we are working 12-hour days and we're in the air for 9 hours. So that is pretty taxing on your body. Some people do this. They do these high value trips back to back to back. Some is too tiring for them. So the work-life balance, this is almost like a normal office job, but we're going to be in the air and our day is going to be longer than 8 hours. But like I said, it would be less because of the United contract. Also, if you had boarding pay. This is what it looks like for top of the pay scale. If you're like in the middle of the pay scale, I'm going to say it's $52 per flight hour. If you do the exact same thing that we're talking about now, you would bring in $139,698 before profit sharing, before the 401k match, and this is without boarding pay. And if you were at the bottom of the pay scale, you did the exact same thing, you're actually bringing in a decent amount of money as well. You're going to bring in $99,351. So, and if you kept on doing this throughout your career, some companies do a raise every other year or every year of the pay scale. Some wait for the contract to be whatever, how many years it might be, 5, 8 years to increase the contract. But ideally, every so often, the pay scale is increasing. So every year you're making more and more money. So flight attendants can be a very lucrative job. It is hard in the beginning. You're on call, you're on reserve, you don't know what you're doing. You can't have too much control of your hours. You're at the bottom of the pay scale. You get the trips that aren't so great. But as the years progress, you're able to get more trips that you like, more trips that you enjoy. So being a flight attendant, especially at the top 5 airlines, can be really great. If you're commuting or you live in a high cost city, you have more expenses to deal with. When you're commuting, you deal with hotels in your city. If you don't have commutable trips, if you have commutable trips, you can just come in the day of work, and then when you're finished, you can go home. There's a lot of things to make it work, but I don't want to sugarcoat it. It is quite hard in the beginning. So we're talking about being a flight attendant. We're not talking about layovers. There are trips that you can do. Some of the high time trips that I've seen are like 29-hour, 3 days. So that's like to Asia, whatever. And per day, you're getting paid for 9 hours. Those trips are very good as well. And if you're in charge of those flights, you get even more money than you would now. Your international per diem would be right here, so it'd be higher, and then you're still going to get the international pay like we said. So you can find some 29-hour 3 days. They're hard to come by. Let's say you go to Shanghai, you're over there for 24 hours, you get to enjoy the city. Or if it's a 4-day trip, you're there for longer. That does reduce the overall money you bring in per day, but you still would make a pretty good wage, but you also get to enjoy the city that you're in. But also you might be spending more money enjoying the cities that you're in. Domestically, You can find some 20-hour 3 days, some 19-hour 3 days, some high time 3 day trips where you get to enjoy some cities that you're in, but they're a little bit harder to come by. This is just the most efficient way to make over $200,000 that I know of. Granted, this per diem is going to be taxed because you're coming home, but when you are laying over, that per diem is not going to be taxed. So that's another big savings right there. So this is how to make over $200,000 as a flight attendant. It is very possible. Being a flight attendant can be very lucrative if you do it efficiently, if you do it smart, if you stick with it, get up to the pay scale. I know the pay scale is pretty long, 13, 12 years, but the career is really cool because you cannot work this amount at all if you don't want to. You could work like 3 days a week, you work 2 days a week, and you make less money, but it's possible to drop your trips, take a little break, or do some stuff on the side. This is your boy Nicholas. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, y'all. Peace out, folks. Hope you enjoyed.